The Kapex KS120 is a 260mm slide compound miter saw. In this guide we'll take a look at the different features, setup and system accessories. When setting the machine up, press down on the saw head and pull out the headlock. To slide the saw head forward, unscrew the locking screw to release the column guide. The power trigger turns the saw on, but also releases the motor head to plunge downward. To help prevent accidental start-up of the saw, the trigger lock must be pushed to release the trigger to power the saw. To plunge the saw head down without starting the saw, squeeze the power trigger, but do not press the trigger lock. The Kapex saw is capable of angles of 50 degrees to the left and 60 degrees to the right. Positive stops are located at 0, 22.5, 30 and 45 degrees. The miter gauge pointer also includes half-degree markings for accurately setting the miter angle to half-degree values. To adjust the angle, release the miter lock by lifting up the handle. Press down on the miter stop release lever and rotate the miter to the desired angle. To stop at one of the preset positive lock positions, release the miter stop lever just before reaching the angle and the miter stop will click in and lock in its position. To set the miter angle to half-degree between the primary angles, line up the half-degree marks with the angle index marks. When the desired miter angle is set, engage the miter lock by pressing down on the miter lever lock. The Kapex saw is capable of beveling up to 47 degrees to the left and to the right. For ease of use, the beveling has a fine adjustment lever to make the process more accurate. The selector has 3 settings. The first setting, 0 to 45, limits the bevel travel between 0 degrees and 45 degrees to the left. The second setting, plus or minus 45 degrees, limits the bevel travel between 45 degrees to the left and 45 degrees to the right. The last setting, plus or minus 47 degrees, limits the bevel travel to the full extent of the saw, which is 47 degrees to the left and to the right. To adjust the angle, release the bevel lock by lifting the lever. Turn the bevel range selected to the desired range. Rotate the bevel adjustment until the bevel index pointer is pointing to the desired angle. Lower the bevel lock lever. The depth limit is used for making partial cuts that do not cut all the way through the workpiece, such as making rebates for trenches and door jambs. When the depth limit lever is engaged, the saw blade's vertical travel is limited from going below the preset height. The height is easily adjustable by turning the depth limit lever. Turning the knob clockwise raises the saw blade. Turning it anti-clockwise lowers the saw blade. To engage the limit stop, pull the lever forward. To disengage the depth limit, push the lever back. The Kapex saw has a laser each side of the blade that highlights where the blade will cut the workpiece, which assists lining up the cut on either side of the blade. To turn on the laser, press the on and off button on the rear of the motor near the speed control dial. Pressing the button a second time will turn the laser off. The laser will automatically shut off in approximately 30 minutes if left on without use. The laser cover can also be removed and cleaned by backing off the screw on the side of the cover and removing the laser cover. The lasers come preset to each side of the blade. The lasers have the ability to be adjusted if required. The Kapex saw has electronic speed control with soft start electronics. The speed control is variable from 1400 to 3400 RPM. The optimal speed of the saw is predominantly determined by the type of material being cut. There is a guide on the side of the saw's motor housing that gives some speed recommendations for various materials. When needing to cut materials up to 120mm high, a special cutting position can be used. This cutting position is used for cutting boards in a vertical position, such as miring skirting material. A latch holds the saw head slightly forward from its normal position and also increases the maximum depth that the saw can plunge downward. To engage the higher cutting position, pull the saw head away from the fence. While holding down the latch lever, push the saw head back towards the fence until the latch locks in the back of the saw head. To release the saw head from this position, press down on the release lever and pull the saw away from the fence. The latch will spring to the vertical position when it releases. The saw's head cannot be adjusted in this cutting position. When cutting high materials, the dust extraction shroud can either be pushed back or removed. The Kapex saw can be connected to a dust extractor to reduce dust during operation. The dust port swivels to either side and accepts either a 27mm or a 36mm Festool hose. The material hold down clamp fits in a socket on either left or right hand sides of the saw. To lock the clamp in its socket, rotate it to the forward position. To secure the workpiece, press down on the green knob and rotate the locking handle down. To release the clamp, rotate the locking lever up. The auxiliary fence provides support for taller workpieces. The two halves of the fence can be slid forward or away from the blade or removed completely. Performing bevel cuts require the auxiliary fence to be moved away or removed depending on the bevel angle being used. To move the auxiliary fence, lift the locking lever, slide the fence, then lower the locking lever. If the auxiliary fence needs to be removed, the end screws on the auxiliary fence need to be screwed lower to remove the fence. The extension arms can be extended for extra material support. Unlock holding bolt to extend the support arm. The smart bevel bisects a given angle and converts the angle measurement into a miter setting. The line in the centre of the tool is always at the midpoint of the two angle arms, and when lined up for the saw's laser, provides the exact miter angle for the measured corner. To measure an internal corner, loosen the lock wheel on the bevel, place the bevel into the corner, retighten the lock wheel. For measuring an external corner, extend the extension forward, place the bevel in the corner. When the arms are lined up with the corner walls, retighten the wheel lock. Place the bevel on the saw with one of the arms up against the fence. Adjust the table angle of the saw until either of the laser beams line up with a line on the bevel. Lock the miter setting on the saw. Festool offers saw blades for cutting different materials. There are saw blades available for cutting timber, plastics, laminate and aluminium. To change the blade, push and rotate the fast fix button. Unscrew the arbor bolt by turning it clockwise. The arbor bolt is a left-hand thread and turns the opposite of a standard screw. There is a directional arrow on the bolt with the direction indicated. To loosen the blade is always in the direction of rotation of the saw blade. And remove the outboard arbor flange. Without pushing down on the trigger, pull up on the trigger to release the blade guard. Raise the blade guard out of the way and remove the saw blade from the arbor. When installing a new blade, make sure the arbor bolt is properly positioned, tightened, and the rotational direction of the saw blade matches the rotational direction indicated on the saw. Unplug the saw and coil the power cord on the reel at the rear of the saw. Push the motor head all the way to the rear of the saw and tighten up the column guide lock. Pull the power trigger and lower the motor head down. Set the miter angle to 6 degrees and push down on the miter lock lever. To keep yourself updated on Festool product information and applications, subscribe to our channel below.